हरे कृष्ण।
हरि बोल।
Okay. Anjali,
हाँ जी।
can you see the screen?
नहीं।
No? One minute. नहीं हो रही है। Now?
नहीं। हाँ। यस। करताल someone? गलती हो जाए तो प्लीज एक्सक्यूज।
No worries. Please start.
जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभ जय गिरिवर धारी जय गिरिवर धारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभ जय गिरिवर धारी जय गिरिवर धारी यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीरा वनचारी यमुना तीरा वनचारी जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमति भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणी निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणी जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा सच्चिनंदन जय सच्चिनंदन जय सच्चिनंदन गौर हरि जय राधा श्याम सुंदर जय राधा श्याम सुंदर जय राधा श्याम सुंदर जय राधे जय राधा दामोदर जय राधा दामोदर जय राधा दामोदर जय राधे जय जगन्नाथ जय बलदेव जय सुभद्रा जय सुदर्शना जय सीता राम लक्ष्मण हनुमान सीता राम लक्ष्मण हनुमान जय गिरि गोवर्धन गिरि गोवर्धन गिरि गोवर्धन जय गिरि गोवर्धन नित्य ये है ना नित्य को हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल नित्य गौर हरि बोल नित्य गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल नित्य गौर हरि बोल जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय श्रीला प्रभुपाद जय जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव नित्य गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल नित्य गौर हरि बोल 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 I missed out a few, I think.
Doesn't matter. हरिनाम संकीर्तन यज्ञ की
जय
जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय,
जय।
निताई गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि 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 बोल। जय जय श्री राधे श्याम। So welcome everyone to yet another very enlightening, invigorating class of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. We are in the second chapter. We did, the last verse that we did was second chapter, verse 58, about the tortoise, right? Okay, Manglacharan. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupaha Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakha Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bibi Govind Swami Niti Namine Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshikarini Hari Bol. Any volunteers for reading the verse today? Quite a few have not joined.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. You asked me to chant, recite the verses today.
Yes, I had sent you also a message. Yes, Neela.
Verse 59, 2.59.
Yes. 2.5.
Hare Krishna. विषया विनिवर्तन्ते निराहारस्य देहिनः रसवर्जं रसोऽप्यस्य परं दृष्ट्वा निवर्तते. Though the embodied soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment, the taste for sense objects remains. But ceasing such engagements by experiencing a higher taste, he is fixed in consciousness.
Okay, so a little bit of revision of what we did last class. We did in the previous verse, if you read the translation of the previous verse, one who is able to withdraw his senses from sense objects, as the tortoise draws its limbs within the shell, is firmly fixed in perfect consciousness. So Arjun has asked Krishna 4 questions, and Krishna is now step by step answering those questions. And we have come up to the point where Krishna is saying that whenever you have a weakness, and whenever supposing your opponent or your enemy has a weakness, what do they do about it? They try to hide it. They try to protect their weakness, isn't it? Because your weakness can be exploited by the other person, right? So weaknesses are not to be flaunted. They are to be covered and protected, isn't it? That's the intelligent thing to do. Similarly, our sense objects, our sensory organs are our weaknesses. You know, the 7 sensory organs. Which are they? The 5 are the gross sensory organs: eyes, nose, mouth, ears, and the sense of touch. These are actually our weaknesses. So our weaknesses should always be protected, controlled, restricted, covered, so that it doesn't get exploited by Maya Devi. An intelligent thing to do is like that of a tortoise. The tortoise's hands and legs are its weakness because they are so soft that they can very easily be crushed, eaten up, mutilated. So whenever the tortoise senses danger, what does it do?
It's
It
covered.
withdraws its
Inside.
hands and legs inside its shell. So, and that shell has the capability of even tolerating the foot of an elephant. इतना strong होता है. So naturally वो अपनी weakness को cover कर लेता है, and then it is safe. It cannot be exploited. So similarly, our sense objects are not meant to be explored, you know, and indulged in. It is meant to be covered. This is the intelligent thing to do. Then it will not cause us harm. It will keep us protected. This was up till 58. This is Krishna's advice to Arjuna. Now in this 59th verse, next verse he's saying that though the embodied soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment, the taste for sense objects remains. You can artificially control, cover, restrict your senses, But what will you do about the desire to enjoy them?
What will you do?
The taste remains. The taste to enjoy still remains. Seizing such engagements by experiencing a higher taste, he's fixed in consciousness. Such a beautiful, you can, all of you are mothers, so you can understand this very well, this example. When you have to keep your child out of some activity, for example, when they were small and we didn't want them to touch something or we didn't want them to go somewhere, all the time we would tell them, ye mat chho, yahan mat jao, ye mat karo. Isn't it? Don't touch this, don't do this, sit here. Did they listen? How successful were we? Because the moment you tell somebody not to touch something, what do they do?
They go and
It's
They
the
like
first-
touching it more.
They'll go
it's
and
the
touch
first
it.
thing that they want to do, leaving aside even what they were doing, right? So, and then how did you gain success? Does any mother recall? Would anyone want to share? Yes, Anjali.
by keeping them engaged in something else.
Yes, exactly. So it is not intelligent to keep telling the mind, don't do this, don't go there, don't eat this, don't see this, don't hear this, don't touch this. That's not a very intelligent thing to do, because the mind is going to indulge into that even more. And moreover, the mind cannot stay idle. The soul cannot stay idle. It has to be engaged into something. So what do? You give it an alternative, more tasteful engagement. Then it's very easy to control it. That's why all other yoga forms are not recommended. In fact, forget about not recommendation. They fail. They royally fail. We will see all those examples now in history. That if you try to do Ashtanga yoga, Dhyan yoga, Gyan yoga, Karma yoga, all of them are going to fail. They do fail because we have not given the mind a higher taste. And that's why they will keep on going back to enjoying the senses. And that's where you will not be successful in controlling your mind and controlling your senses. So the only thing that gives it higher taste is
Bhakti.
Krishna
Bhakti
consciousness.
yoga.
Bhakti yoga.
Bhakti yoga. Only and only Buddhi yoga, Karma yoga, or Bhakti yoga. That's the only successful thing. So let's quickly read the purport.
This sounds so logical. Only when you
Yes.
get something better tasting or something better do you forget the original or Purana, whatever you were hankering for. I mean, this is so logical.
So logical, exactly. And the society is going towards more and more, I would say, fantastically cheated or cheating kind of technologies, towards controlling your mind, or some kind of a attractive yoga, just to attract people, that you come and do this and you are going to get this kind of a experience and that kind of a result, which is completely unscientific and baseless. We'll see how we will prove all of this, not simply by words, but by on authority of the Shastra, and also very good examples from history. So unless one is transcendently situated, it's not possible to cease from sense enjoyment. The process of restriction from sense enjoyment by rules and regulations is something like restricting a diseased person from certain type of eatables. The patient, however, neither likes such restrictions nor does he lose his taste for eatables, isn't it? जब diabetes वाले को बोलो मीठा नहीं खाना है, मीठा नहीं खाना है, he will only seek out मीठा and trying to cheat everyone to eat it. So meetha nahi khana is definitely not the way to keep him away from meetha, isn't it? Similarly, sense restriction by some spiritual process like Ashtanga yoga, Asht kinds. Asht means 8. Ashtanga yoga comprises of 8 levels or 8 different kinds of progressive kinds of engagements. Yam, Niyam, Asan, Pranayam, Pratyahar, Dharana, Dhyan. We've already done this in detail. Hema ने इसकी definition भी डाली थी group के ऊपर, है ना Hema? Yeah. So this is recommended for less intelligent persons who have no better knowledge. But one who has tasted the beauty of the Supreme Lord Krishna in the course of his advancement in Krishna consciousness no longer has a taste for dead material things. Therefore, restrictions are there for the less intelligent neophytes in the spiritual advancement of life. But such restrictions are only good until one actually has a taste of Krishna consciousness. When one is actually Krishna conscious, he automatically loses his taste for pale things. Now we will see how. This is not just a statement. We will see practically how a person in Bhakti Yoga loses taste easily in all other mundane kinds of enjoyments. One example was given by Anu today at the beginning of class. Okay, next verse. Neelam?
यततो ह्यपि कौन्तेय पुरुषस्य विपश्चितः इन्द्रियाणि प्रमाथीनि हरन्ति प्रसभं मनः. The senses are so strong and impetuous, O Arjun, that they forcibly carry away the mind even of a man of discrimination who is endeavoring to control them.
Yes. So now please remember that this conversation is taking place in Dwapar Yuga. So the standard of moral conduct of the people was much, much higher than what is there of the people now. And at that time, Krishna is saying that, O Arjun, the senses are so strong that they carry away the mind even of a man of discrimination, which means even of a self-controlled man who knows, who can discriminate between good and bad, right and wrong. Even for him, it's very difficult to control. अगर ये द्वापर में बात हो रही है, what chance do we have in Kali Yuga today, where all the objects of sense enjoyment are pushed into our faces day and night through advertisement, through media. Buy this, eat this, wear this, go here, do that. So, there are many learned sages, philosophers, transcendentalists who try to conquer the senses. But in spite of their endeavors, even the greatest of them sometimes fall victims to material sense enjoyments. And he has given the example of Vishwamitra. We all know about the story of sage Vishwamitra. He was a very great sage. Now, please see, he is a yogi, Ashtang yogi. Don't confuse him that all yogis and all munis are the same. No, he was practicing Ashtang yoga. He was misled by Menka into sex enjoyment. How? His eyes were closed. He didn't even see Menka. Just the tinkling of the ankle bells of Menka reached his ears. He just heard. She just made the sound of her payal. And that sound of the payal, when it reached his ears and it agitated the memory or the sense of, say, sage Vishwamitra, and it agitated the desire in him to enjoy with Menka, with the person. He didn't even know who the person was, but it just aroused that desire in him so easily, just by sound, just by shabda. So this is, you can imagine if you are artificially trying to suppress your desires, like an Ashtang yogi, how strong they are. You know, that just by a sound and the tinkling of the ankle bell, you can be agitated. Your sex desires can be agitated. And of course, there are, because he was trying to do it with severe type of penance and yoga, but there was no devotional service. There was no service of love. And of course, there are so many similar instances in the history of the world. So it's very difficult to control the mind and senses without being fully Krishna conscious. Without engaging the mind in Krishna, one cannot seize such material engagements. And a very beautiful verse by Yamunacharya is given. He is, again, not a Ashtanga yogi, but he's a bhakti yogi. What does he say? Yad avadi mam chetah Krishna padarvinde Nav Nav Rasa Dhyamani Udyantam Rantam Asit Tad Avati Bat Nari Bat Nari Sangame Samaryamane Bhavati Mukha Vikaraha Shushtu Nishthi Vanam Cha. So Shushtu Nishthi Vanam Cha. Shushtu is spit. And since my mind has been engaged in the service of the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, and I have been enjoying an ever new transcendental humor, whenever I think of sex life with a woman, my face at once turns from it and I spit at the thought. So you can imagine how much enjoyment, how much rasa he must be getting out of serving the lotus feet of Krishna in the bhakti yoga that he was practicing, that even the thought of sex was repulsive to him. It's such an unusual thing to say. I mean, people of this age will find this the statement, I don't think they can even understand the statement. But he's saying that he wants to spit at this thought. Why? Because this is a very low level of enjoyment. Once you've tasted that, after you've tasted the mango fruit, can you even appreciate a banana or a more humbler fruit? You know, once you've tasted the mango fruit, very easily you can give up the other fruits. So Krishna consciousness is such a transcendently nice thing that automatically material enjoyment becomes distasteful. You don't have to work very hard to control your senses. You don't really have to sit in meditation and force yourself not to do this and not to do that. It's as if a hungry man has satisfied his hunger by a sufficient quantity of nutritious eatables. जब पेट भरा हो, उसके बाद अगर आपके सामने समोसे, कचौरी, गोहाना, जलेबी, जलेबा, पूरी ये सब रख दिया जाए, will you even feel like touching it? Even the smell of that food will repel you. Haven't we all had this experience? After you've eaten and your stomach is full, no amount of attractive food can really entice you to eat it, is it not? So Bhakti Yoga satisfies you so well that everything else is distasteful. Your senses are automatically protected. And then Maharaj Ambarish also conquered a great yogi, Durvasa Muni, simply because his mind was engaged in Krishna consciousness. Savai Manaha Krishna Padaravindayor Vachamsi Vaikuntha Gunanu Varnane. Ambarish Maharaj, I think I've told you the story earlier also. Maharaj Ambarish was a Kshatriya. Durvasa Muni, again, he was an Ashtanga yogi. Or a yogi, definitely not a bhakti yogi. He was not a devotee, but he was a Brahmin. So, according to what do we call it? Varna and ashram. According to both, Durvasa Muni was superior to Ambarish. According to Varna, he was a Brahmin, Ambarish was a Kshatriya. Brahmin comes on the first level, Kshatriya is at a lower level. And even according to ashram, he was a sannyasi and Ambarish was a grihastha. So again, Durvasa was much, much senior to Ambarish Muni. But when he insulted Ambarish Maharaj, and cursed him because Ambarish Maharaj was a devotee. And although he was much junior to him, he remained undisturbed, despite being a king of the world, not just of one kingdom. He was the king of the world. But when Durvasa Muni cursed him and insulted him, he stayed sthita pragya. He was undisturbed because all his senses were very firmly engaged in Krishna consciousness. Nothing disturbed him. On the contrary, when Durvasa Muni saw that his curse does not seem to be affecting Ambarish Maharaj, on the contrary, the weapon that he has hurled at him is coming back at him. Instead of hitting Ambarish Maharaj, it has bounced off him and taken a U-turn, and now it has started chasing Durvasa Muni. He starts running, and he runs from one planet to another. The earth becomes a small place for him to protect himself. So he goes to Vaikunthlok. He goes to Vishnu. Vishnu says, I'm sorry, I can't help you. He says, what? You are the Lord of the universe. You can't help me. You can't protect me from this weapon. He goes to Lord Shiva. He goes to Brahma. He goes to everyone. They say, sorry, we can't help you because you have offended a pure devotee of Lord Krishna. The only person who can protect you from your own weapon now, which is chasing you, is the lotus feet of this devotee whom you have offended. Go back right at him and beg forgiveness from him. If he forgives you, the weapon will stop. And that's when Durvasa Muni realized where he stands, because he was very puffed up. Oh, I'm a great yogi. I can control my senses. I can subdue my sex desire by my tapasya, by my mystic yoga. But he couldn't control his anger. When he misbehaved with the devotee of the Lord, it came back to him. So this is a very good example of, and Ambarish Maharaj was not doing any tapasya. He was not doing any severe austerities, nothing of the sort. Yet all his senses were, he was peaceful. All his senses were under control. And in the next verse, very beautifully it has been explained by a verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam, how he used to do that. And so Durvasa Muni ultimately did a Dandavat Pranams at the lotus feet of Ambarish Maharaj and asked him for forgiveness and understood his position, actually, Durvasa Muni. His pride got a beating. And he, of course, was forgiven by Ambarish Maharaj. Okay, next verse.
Ani sarvani samyamya
Samyamya, yeah.
तानि सर्वाणि संयम्य युक्त असित मत्परः वशे हि यस्येन्द्रियाणि तस्य प्रज्ञा प्रतिष्ठिता. One who restrains his senses, keeping them under full control and fixes his consciousness upon me, is known as a man of steady intelligence.
So there's one more point that I want to make, that Bhakti Yoga or Krishna consciousness does not mean that no bad thoughts will come to your mind. You know, you will at all times be thinking good, saying good, feeling good. That's not what it means. It means that whenever you get tempting thoughts or bad thoughts, you will be able to keep them at bay. You will be able to tell them later, I'll come to you later. Let me first finish my chanting. This is the power that they get. They will not succumb to it immediately. They will be able to delay it, prolong it. And with practice of Bhakti Yoga, over the years, the more you are able to delay those thoughts, ultimately a long delay causes the death of those thoughts. This is how Bhakti Yoga works. So, of course, devotees also keep getting the desires, all kinds of sensual desires of the senses, but they are able to acknowledge them, first of all, that they are coming, and they are also able to delay them or postpone them. And in due course of time, they die their death, a natural death. In fact, Srila Prabhupada says that intelligence means to kill the thoughts before they turn into actions. Thoughts will come. You can never stop thoughts. You can never say that I'm thoughtless. Many people claim that we can get you into a yoga or a trance where you reach the state of thoughtlessness. Well, the Shastra says there is no such state of thoughtlessness. There will always be thoughts coming and going, all kinds of thoughts. The soul is always active. But an intelligent man will kill those thoughts then and there before they can even convert to actions. So let the thoughts come. There is nothing wrong in them coming. But with Bhakti Yoga, you will not act on them. Okay. Now, the highest conception of yoga, perfection, is Krishna consciousness, is clearly explained in this verse. And unless one is Krishna conscious, it's not at all possible to control the senses. As cited above, Durvasa Muni picked a quarrel with Maharaj Ambarish. And Durvasa Muni unnecessarily became angry out of pride, and therefore he could not check his senses. On the other hand, the king, although he was not as powerful a yogi, but he was a devotee of the Lord, so silently he tolerated all the sages' injustices and thereby emerged victorious. The king was able to control his senses because of the following qualifications. Now let's hear. This is a very nice verse. Savai manaha Krishna padaravindayor. Savai manaha. Man se unhone kya kiya? Mind. He engaged in Krishna padaravindayor. He engaged his mind always in meditating on the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. Vachamsi Vaikuntha Gunanu Varnane. Vachamsi. His speech, his mouth, he utilized in Vaikuntha Gunanu Varnane. Vaikuntha is also another name of Vishnu or Krishna. So glorifying the qualities of Vishnu, glorifying the abode of Vishnu, he used his mouth for that. Karau Harer Mandira Marjanadishu. Karau, Kar means hands. With his hands, Harer Mandir, he used his hands to marjanado, clean the mandir of being a king. He personally cleaned the temple that he had, beautiful big temple that he had built for Lord Krishna. He used to clean it. So he engaged his hands in cleaning the temple. Shrutim Chakrarachut Sat Khadogaye Kathodaye. Shrutim. He used his ears in hearing the glories of the Supreme Lord. Mukunda Lingalaya Darshane Drasho, the deity form, the ling form of Mukunda, he used his eyes to have darshan of the deities. First thing in the morning. Tad Bhritya Gatra Sparshe Anga Sangamam. Bhritya Gatre, he used his body to touch the body of devotees, to touch the lotus feet of all the visiting devotees to his kingdom. He would touch their feet and take their lotus dust upon his head. So he used his body in touching the body of other devotees. Srimat Tulasya Rasanam Tad Arpite. The tulsi leaves that were offered at the lotus feet of the Lord, he ate those tulsi leaves and enjoyed the rasa. So his sense of taste, his sense of tongue and taste was satisfied always by tasting the tulasya offered at the feet of Lord Krishna. Padav Hare Kshetra Padanu Sharpane. He used his feet to travel to the pilgrimages, all the pilgrimage places, to have darshan of the Lord. Shiro Rishikesh Padabhi Vandane. He used his head in offering obeisances at the feet of Rishikesh. Who's Rishikesh? Master of the senses. So his head was, despite having a crown of the Samrat of the world, with that crowned head, it was always bowed in dust at the feet of Krishna. Kamam cha dasye natu kam kamaya Yathottam shloka janarasya ratihi. And in this way, he had engaged all his senses to become the servants of Krishna. So, because all his senses were engaged in the service of Krishna, the calm organs or the sense organs had become his slave. The sense organs couldn't touch him; they became his slave. So, 61. What is special about this verse is that for the first time in this verse, in the entire Bhagavad Gita so far, up till verse 60, this is the first time that Krishna has given a reference to his own self, Mat Paraha. This word he is using for the first time. The meaning of Mat Paraha is in relationship to me. Up till now, he has not spoken about his divinity, about his position. So far, he's just talking to Arjun about Karmakand and yoga, but he has yet not spoken to him about Bhakti Yoga. This is the first time he's referring to his own position. You know, that I am, a little hint he's giving him that the first, it's like he's just given him a first drop of Bhakti, a little bit of a teaser, an introduction to Bhakti, that I am the object of the controlled senses, he's trying to tell him. If you really want to control your senses, then engage them in Mat Paraha, in developing a relationship with me, because I am the object of those senses. I am Rishikesha. So what happens when you control your senses, then you concentrate them on Hari. And once you concentrate them on Hari, then the senses get conquered. This is the secret, and it's a very big secret. The 3 C's: control, concentrate, conquer. Otherwise, you can never control your sense objects. Never. If you are currently fighting some lust, it could be shopping, dressing up, traveling, eating, could be anything. If currently you are, what is the word? Battling with any of these problems in your life, then here in this verse, Krishna is giving you the solution. The 3 C's: control, but not just control. After you control means become aware that this lust has attacked you. That's called control. Then concentrate, dovetail it into the service of the lotus feet of Krishna, like how Samrat Ambarish did it. I mean, it's not that कि वो खाली बैठे हुए थे, राज्य चला रहे थे. It's not that he was just doing these things only. He was running his kingdom. He was running his entire praja. So he was engaged in all kinds of administrative activities, political activities, but he was using all his senses in the service of the Lord. Whatever time he was getting, this is how he was engaging them. Nothing other than these, other than his duties. So once you concentrate them in devotional service, then you conquer them. They get conquered easily, and then they stop troubling you. So you really don't have to fight much. So control cannot last long unless it is concentrated on an object. At least the intention to control should be there. So as devotees, we have the big advantage to identify and acknowledge that, oh, you know, I'm right now attacked by my senses. This particular desire or feeling has come upon me. They recognize it. Then they concentrate that particular sense organ which is being agitated into the service of the Lord, and eventually they conquer it. Clear? Control, concentrate, conquer. King Ambarish fixed his mind on the lotus feet of Krishna. engaged his words in describing the abode of the Lord, his hands in cleansing the temple of the Lord, his ears in hearing the pastimes of the Lord, his eyes in seeing the form of the Lord, his body in touching the body of the devotees, his nostrils in smelling the flavor of the flowers offered to the lotus feet of the Lord, his tongue in tasting the tulsi leaves offered to him, his legs in traveling to the holy place where his temple is situated, his head in offering obeisances unto the Lord, and his desires in fulfilling the desires of the Lord. Even his desires, all the इच्छाएं जो समुंदर की लहरों की तरह उठती रहती हैं. You cannot stop the waves of an ocean from coming and going, can you? And this is how your desires, our desires will keep on coming in the ocean of our heart. And how do you control them? By fulfilling the desires of the Lord. Your own desires will also get fulfilled automatically. And all these qualifications made him fit to become a Matpara devotee of the Lord. Prabhupada has given in relationship with me. He's given the meaning, Sanskrit meaning, Matpara, in relationship with me. So the word Matpara is most significant in this connection. How one can become Matpara is described in the life of Maharaj Ambarish. Srila Baladev Vidyabhushan, a great scholar and acharya in the line of Matpara, remarks, Mad Bhakti Prabhavena Sarvendriya Vijaya Purvika Svatma Drishti Sulabheti Bhavaha. The senses can be completely controlled only by the strength of devotional service to Krishna. Also, the example of fire is sometimes given. Like a blazing fire burns everything within a room, Lord Vishnu, situated in the heart of a yogi, burns up all kinds of impurities, or all kinds of desires, or all kinds of lust. The so-called yogis who meditate on something other than Vishnu simply waste their time in vain search after some phantasmagoria. This is, just see the high standard of Prabhupada's language. The Yoga Sutra also prescribes meditation on Vishnu and not meditation on void or Shunyavad. We have to be Krishna conscious, devoted to the personality of Godhead. This is the aim of real yoga. He has just summarized everything and concluded it so that there is no confusion, no doubt. Okay, let's go to the next verse. Any doubts so far? All right. Oh, there's Vaiji. Vaiji, do you want to recite?
Sure. I'm sorry, I didn't realize the class is starting at 3:45, so I joined a little bit late, around 4:45. So
I also didn't see you in the beginning, and then no worries. You can.
Sure. Okay. Dhyayato vishayan pumsah sangasteshopajayate sangat sanjayate kamah kamat krodho bijayate. While contemplating the objects of the senses, a person develops attachment for them, and from such attachment, lust develops, and from lust, anger arises.
So these two verses is worth making a chart. I'll post it on the group soon. It's my favorite chart. One who is not Krishna conscious is subjected to material desires while contemplating the objects of the senses. The senses require real engagement. What does it mean? That this heart and this mind is like a child, and a child, if agar child ko aap keh do chupchap baitho, kabhi nahi baithega, he has to do something with himself, right? So you have to engage the child of your mind and your senses in some activity. It's never going to sit idle. So the senses require real engagement, and if they are not engaged in the loving service of the Lord, they will certainly seek engagement in the loving service of Maya. Okay, अगर कृष्ण की loving service नहीं की तो माया देवी की service करनी पड़ेगी. Choice is yours. In the material world, everyone, including Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, to say nothing of other Devi Devtas, are subjected to the influence of sense objects. And the only method to get out of this puzzle of material existence is to become Krishna conscious. Lord Shiva was deep in meditation, but when Parvati agitated him for sense pleasure, he agreed to the proposal. And as a result, Kartikeya was born. On the other hand, when Haridas Thakur was a young devotee of the Lord, he was similarly allured by the incarnation of Maya Devi. But Haridas easily passed the test because of his unalloyed devotion to Lord Krishna. As illustrated in the above mentioned verse of Sri Yamunacharya, a sincere devotee of the Lord shuns all material sense enjoyment due to his higher taste for spiritual enjoyment in the association of the Lord. That is the secret of success. One who is not, therefore, in Krishna consciousness, however powerful he may be in controlling the senses by artificial repression, is sure to fail. For the slightest thought of sense pleasure will agitate him to gratify his senses. You can artificially control, subdue your desires for some amount of time. But the slightest provocation is going to agitate it, and then it'll be like a dam has broken and it's going to flood your heart and mind with that thought. So artificial curbing, like building a dam on a river, is not going to work. Okay. So first it starts with contemplation, that is thinking about the object of sense pleasure. Dhyayato. Right? Lust. This is the process of how lust starts. It starts with dhyayato, contemplation, thought. All lust starts with thought. Pehle thought aayega dimag mein. After that, when the thought keeps playing, replaying, then sangha, attachment to that thought happens. And once the attachment happens, then kama, lust develops. So dhyayato, sangha, and then kama. Contemplation, attachment, lust. And then when the lust is not satisfied, then krodha, anger. This is how anger arises. So the next time we are angry, just trace it back. That anger has its origin in first dhyayato, contemplation. There was something that we were contemplating, thinking about. Then we got attached to that. And then lust, it converted to lust. And when that lust was not satisfied, it resulted in anger, krodha. And the rest will come in the next verse. YG? Hare Krishna, YG.
क्रोधात् मोहात् स्मृति विभ्रमः स्मृति भ्रंशात् बुद्धिनाशो बुद्धिनाशात् प्रणश्यति. From anger, complete delusion arises, and from delusion, bewilderment of memory. When memory is bewildered, intelligence is lost, and when intelligence is lost, one falls down again into the material pool.
So ये circuit complete हो गया. This is a cycle, it's a circuit. Srila Rupa Goswami has given us this direction from Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu. Prapanchika kataya buddhaya hari sambandhi vastuna mumukshubhihi parityago vairagyam falgu kathyate. Falgu is actually less intelligent, or monkey. That's the meaning of Falgu. By development of Krishna consciousness, one can know that everything has its use in the service of the Lord. Those who are without knowledge of Krishna consciousness artificially try to avoid material objects. And as a result, although they desire liberation from material bondage, they do not attain to the perfect stage of renunciation. Their so-called renunciation is called Falgu, or less important. On the other hand, a person in Krishna consciousness knows how to use everything in the service of the Lord. Therefore, he does not become a victim of material consciousness. For example, an impersonalist. Who is an impersonalist? We all were impersonalists before we came to Krishna consciousness. Who's an impersonalist? Neelam?
Who thinks that the God Lord doesn't have any personal form, no physical form. It's only the effulgence, the Brahman, the feature of Brahman actually.
Yeah. Now supposing all of us are impersonalists, we believe that Murti Puja में कुछ नहीं रखा हुआ, भगवान तो सभी जगह है, पत्थर में थोड़ी होगा. So God is just an energy. He's sarvavyapi, and he's everywhere. But he doesn't have any form, shape, name, nothing. So you can just feel him around like air. Okay. So now supposing you have this desire to eat something, and you know that it's bad to eat this abominable thing, say flesh. You're trying to fight this desire that I don't want to eat flesh. If I'm an impersonalist, I'm just going to suppress this desire artificially. I don't want to eat, I don't want to eat, I don't want to eat. You know? But a devotee of the Lord, a bhakti yogi who believes in the personal form of the Lord, instead of suppressing the desire of not eating, he is going to prepare some very nice foodstuffs, offer it to the Lord very lovingly, and then eat the remnants. So very easily he will be able to control his tongue by trying to serve the form of a Lord. Similarly, his eyes, his ears, just by engaging them in the worship of a form of the Lord, he is able to engage his senses in a purifying activity. Thereby his senses get shanta, subsided, and very easily he is able to control them. But an impersonalist cannot do such a thing. You can't do anything with air, can you? So, for an impersonalist, the Lord or the Absolute is impersonal and he cannot eat. Whereas an impersonalist tries to avoid good eatables, a devotee knows that Krishna is the supreme enjoyer and that he eats all that is offered to him in devotion. An impersonalist will say, nahi, mujhe bahut opulent khana nahi khana hai, mujhe sada khana khana hai, mujhe sattvic rehna hai. Sattvic, how long can he be sattvic? He will keep on forcing himself to eat something which is not very opulent. But what does a devotee do? He creates a huge feast, an opulent feast of all the foodstuffs that he would like to eat, offers it lovingly to the Lord, invites Krishna to eat it, and then eats it as the remnants of Krishna, which is easier and which is purifying and which has long-lasting effects. Yeah. So after offering good eatables to the Lord, the devotee takes the remnants called prasadam. Thus, everything becomes spiritualized. Not only the food, but the tongue, the eyes, the mind, everything gets spiritualized. And there is no danger of a downfall. The devotee takes prasadam in Krishna consciousness, whereas the non-devotee rejects food as material. This is the difference in consciousness. The impersonalist, therefore, cannot enjoy life. due to his artificial renunciation. This kind of renunciation is called Phalgu. And for this reason, even the slightest agitation of the mind pulls him down into the pool of material existence. It is said that such a soul, even though rising up to the point of liberation, falls down again due to his not having support in devotional service. Such a deep understanding. Even if you get liberated by doing this Ashtanga Yoga and you say reach Brahman or Brahma Jyoti, but because you have nothing to do there, you're not engaged in the personal, in developing a relationship with the Lord, with the person there, you're just going to be idle. And since you cannot sit idle and your senses are still not under control, they are still agitated, ultimately you are again going to fall down into the material world from there. Hence, it is not recommended to target liberation or impersonalism or voidism. Because this mind, dil hai ke manta nahi, will still be there, even in Brahma Jyoti. The desires will still continue to trouble you. Your heart will still be dissatisfied. How? It starts with contemplation. First, you will get the desire, the contemplation. Then you get attached to that, sangha. Then kam, lust. It will convert to lust, very strong lust. I want it, I want it. And then krodh, anger. And after anger, when anger again is not subsided, then delusion, sammoha, delusion. And then smriti, brahmashad. What is that? Bewilderment of memory, smriti. You will lose all intelligent thinking. Your memory will get bewildered. Because of krodh, you get delusioned and your memory gets bewildered. And once your memory gets bewildered, buddhi nasho, loss of intelligence. You will have no intelligence left to take a good decision or the right decision. And ultimately, if intelligence is lost, everything is lost. Pranashyati, you fall down. तभी कहते हैं गुस्से में कोई decision मत लो. Because you lose intelligence. Your memory is lost. Smriti, brahmashad, and buddhi nasho. And this loop continues on and on and on. Contemplation, attachment, lust, anger, delusion, bewilderment of memory, loss of intelligence, fall down. That's why I love this. And why? Just look around you. In whatever discussions are going on right now, on television, on news channels, on WhatsApp groups, on emails, everywhere people are discussing the terrible state of affairs of the society and how to rectify it. So my inbox is always full with change.org petitions. I'm sure all of your inboxes are also flooded with, Vanita, please sign my petition, because this bhed bhav ki wajah se hi, there is too much problem in the society. So I want to raise this petition and take as many votes that let all genders be equal. Why only male and female? Transgender should also get a bill. Then another male will come. Women's liberation. All the women are being downtrodden upon. So let us again sign another petition to raise our voice against the administration. And the main reason is that you have to make them free. Everybody should be included. But they are not understanding. You may sign as many petitions as you want. You can make rules. You can make everyone equal. Let there be a transgender bill. Let there be a women's liberation bill. Let there be a no casteism bill. Let there be a secular bill. According to the Bhagavad Gita, you will still not solve the problems of the world. Why? Because the problems of the real problem of the world is contemplation, dhyayato, which leads to attachment, which leads to lust, which leads to anger, which leads to delusion, then to bewilderment of memory, and then loss of intelligence. And ultimately, what do we end up doing? Falgu renunciation, monkey renunciation. You know what the monkey does? I have nothing to do with this world. I am not going to get attached to this world. I am going to leave everything and go away. I'm not going to work for a living and go away. And then the very next moment, what does he do? He goes and sits on a branch, and a she monkey comes, and there everything starts. So he says, okay, I'm not going to wear any clothes. I'm not going to do any work. I'm just going to leave everything and go away. But wherever you go, your 5 wives are always going to go with you. Which are the 5 wives? 6 wives. Kam, Krodh, Moh, Lobh, Mad, Matsarya. Inse kaise bhagoge? You can run away from one tree to the other, from one house to the other, from one petition to another, from one body to another. You're not happy in a boy's body, you get an operation done, get a girl's body. Or you're not happy in a girl's body, get an operation done, get a boy's body. Or a girl marries a girl, boy marries a boy. You may do anything you want. But how will you run away from Kam, Krodh, Moh, Lobh, Mad, Matsarya? These are the real ghosts that are troubling you. Actually, these are the real pains that are troubling us. And we are materially trying to find a solution to them. By let's have a woman president, then all our problems will be solved. Let's have a woman prime minister, then our problems will be solved. Let's give equal rights to everyone, then our problems will be solved. Let's take money from the rich and give it to a poor, our problems will be solved. Let's support the farmers. Let's not support the farmers. Let's do this, let's do that. This is going on. There's just debate after debate after debate on television. But nobody is understanding the real problem is the impurity in the heart. And the impurity in the heart is because of sense gratification, and the society is going more and more and more into indulging in lust. And the more you indulge in lust, the more it's going to get agitated, the more you're going to fight. Nothing is really going to solve your problem unless you solve the problem of lust. And we are doing just the opposite. The economy today is being driven by feeding people more and more objects of lust. You must buy this. Only then you will be happy. You must eat this. Please wear this. Please visit this holiday destination. Please marry this person. Please don't marry this person. All these are objects of lust. And our economy is driven by the advertisements, isn't it? So, on the one hand, we are promoting lust. On the other hand, we are trying to control it. That's Falgu. Simple. And Krishna said it 5,000 years back. Hence, this is our weakness, and a weakness should be controlled. Desires need to be controlled, not fanned. इनको हवा नहीं देनी है, इनको ढक के रखना है, बांध के रखना है, कंट्रोल करके रखना है, नियम में रखना है. And then engage them in the service of the Lord. So you will continue to enjoy your life also. Enjoy the food you want. Like Anu just said, she went to Vrindavan. It was like a picnic that she did not want to end. She didn't want it to end. What do we do here in discotheques? There's loud music, there's food and drink, and there's dance. Isn't this what people do at parties? And what do we do in Vrindavan? The same thing. There's dance, there's very loud music, kirtan, There's a lot of prasadam, food, and a lot of drink. But lust is under check, greed is under check, anger, lust, bewilderment, delusion, attachment, everything is under check. Why? Because it's engaged in the service of the Lord. So there is still enjoyment. It's not that we are having a very boring life. Oh, there's no fun, isn't it, Anu? On the contrary, every day is a festival. Every day is a celebration, but it's a smart way of celebrating. It's an intelligent way of engaging your senses. Does that make sense? So with that, we finish the class today. Any questions, any comments? We did 5 verses today, Hannah?
Hare Krishna, Vanita.
Hari bol.
Today's class was very good. I like very much about Bhakti Yoga. It's very nice to hear. I have a doubt when you told me about Shiva, that Kartikeya was born out of lust, but didn't Krishna also have children? Are you able to hear me?
You're breaking. You're saying something about...
Yeah, I just wanted to know, you said that Shiva had Kartikeya out of lust. I want to know whether Krishna didn't have children.
He had children, not out of lust.
So okay, that's what I wanted to know.
That's a big thing. That's a big thing. He had 16,108 wives, and each of them actually wanted him as their husband. Krishna doesn't want to marry anyone. Krishna is self-satisfied. He is a renunciate. But because they are his devotees, and when the devotee out of love and affection asks him to become their husband, he gives them his prasad. Okay, I'll be your husband. But he's not attached to any of them. And because the wives desire children, he gives them children. But he's not attached to anybody or anything. So he gives them out of his own free will. And because they are devotees, he is obliging them by giving them their heart's desire. But he's not attached to anything. Neither is he under... In fact, Rukmini once complains to Krishna, what kind of a husband are you? You're not attached only to anybody. You're forever, you are Atmaram. You're just self-satisfied in your own self. Because each of his wives are so beautiful that the apsaras of heaven appear like frogs in front of them. So beautiful. Yet Krishna is he's a Atmaram. Well, that's the big difference. You cannot agitate him, but you can make him your servant by loving him. He gets controlled by the love of his devotees. Nothing else can control him. He cannot come under... he cannot be caught or bound or controlled by anybody or anything. But the gopis can. All his devotees can control him. He becomes their servant. He runs after them. You know, the gopis of Vrindavan, as a child, they will tell Krishna, naach ke dikhao, tabhi doodh milega, makhan milega, chalo, nacho. And he does it. Imagine, Lord of the universe, naach raha hai, you know, just on unke ishare pe. Why? Because they have paid a high price to buy him. They have surrendered to Krishna at his lotus feet. Complete surrender. Once you surrender to him completely, he will do anything. I hope that is satisfactory, Reshma.
Yeah, thank you so much. My video is not working. I tried to switch it on. Something's wrong.
No worries. No worries. There is no comparison between Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, and Krishna. Anything else? Anybody has
I have a question. In verse 61, The word
Yes.
matpara, actually, I have not understood properly. Should I understand this by as like the sentences there where Prabhupada has written all these qualifications made him fit to become a matpara devotee of the Lord? So does it mean to that develops the to develop the relationship with the Lord?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Vanita, does it mean unalloyed? Matpara means?
It means as Prabhupada has written, in relationship with me. You can understand it in many ways. It means a pure devotee of the Lord. And there are so many qualities of a pure devotee of the Lord. So you can call it unalloyed. You can call it other things also. But the main underlying underlying meaning will always remain in connection with Krishna. Completely surrendered or devoted to Krishna. So yeah.
Okay.
Ahaituki apratihata. And it's the first time he's telling him. Connected to him, in devotion to him, offered to him, surrendered to him. That's what he means. Anything else? Does anyone have to share anything, say anything?
Just a personal observation. So we're talking about
Yes.
diabetes and all that, right? So far, I think it's a huge lesson for me that I'm learning, because mine has always been the impersonalist approach. But then, obviously at some point I just cave in, because there's only so much, self-control that can be, right? So
Yes.
that's a very good, learning for me now. I have to substitute with something else. That's what I've learned. So at
Krishna.
least, yeah.
Just substitute with Krishna.
Yeah. So practically, I think I'm kind of going to, adopt that approach, because this is something that I've always, struggled with. However, self-control I have, but practically, right, sometimes you just cave in. So just thanks, for this, teaching. And I really want to implement it going forward.
Yeah, thanks to Srila Prabhupada. He's given such wonderful examples. Really, he's just amazing. So if you keep reading Srila Prabhupada, it will become clearer and clearer and clearer. This is the most practical version of the Bhagavad Gita. So easy to understand. Thank you for sharing that, Vaiji.
Sure.
Anu, आपको कुछ कहना है? About your Vrindavan trip or anything?
Vrindavan trip was
Did you attend the Bhagavatam class morning?
a little
Okay.
only, not much, but I've enjoyed each and every bit of it. Like we went to the kirtan in the morning, at night we ate prasadam, we went to the temples, that Radha Damodar. Each and every feel of Vrindavan is different. There is no comparison to it. I bought a woolen cap for my Laddu Gopal,
Okay.
because he's got a woolen dress, but he's wearing his own crown. So it's
Oh.
these days, so he must be feeling cold. So that's why I bought two caps, the small ones. They're very cute. And I enjoyed each and every bit of it, even the look of the monkeys, their naughtiness of not being able to wear my specs was a big kind of this thing, but still I was enjoying the feel of it. It has got a very different, I mean, I feel blessed whenever I go. This time I also went to that kurta shop where Neelam took us before. Last time I could not go there. So I even
You-
shopped for the kurtas.
You found it?
Yeah, I found it.
Okay.
It's all easy to go. You just
Yeah.
hire a auto rickshaw and just have a round everywhere. I've even seen Prem Mandir this time.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a huge one. Beautiful jhankis are there, and though it feels like there's like a lot of money being invested in this temple.
Yeah. Yeah, it's to attract everybody.
It's a good
People are,
attraction.
people are
They have
attracted to
beautiful-
malls, so why not attract them to temples?
Correct. And
इतना
each and every
malls को भी तो
Krishna
इतना
Leela is
attractive.
depicted so beautifully.
Yeah.
Actually, the night when we were there in ISKCON, a boy was singing Kirtan. And the next day when we went to Radha Damodar temple, we met him there, standing with another lady devotee. So Pavan recognized him and said, "You did beautiful Kirtan last night." Matlab, like, it was really astonishing for me that Pavan praising, "You did nice Kirtan." I was surprised. मैंने बोला क्या बोल रहे हैं? But he enjoyed. Very nice.
Yeah.
Pravar bought a japa bag, a separate mala for him to chant, and Pavan also got one mala to chant, a japa bag. मैंने बोला ला, very nice, Krishna. Keep going. Keep
Yeah.
going. So these are the few good things.
Yeah. So ये जो हम whatever verses we are doing in Bhagavad Gita, we are learning these verses in our Monday class. How to recite them, and we actually get to memorize them easily. हो जाता है सबके साथ with the way the teacher is teaching us, Supriya Mataji. So I would encourage everyone to join our Monday class, same time, 4 to 5, just 1 hour. We are learning the verses. We are learning so many prayers, so many stutis, kavach. There's a lot of information there, and it's really helping our study of the Bhagavad Gita. So I would encourage everyone to please attend the Monday class. Okay.
So
And,
is it compulsory to join every day, or whenever I feel like I can come down to the class?
It's only once a week, no? Only on Monday.
Yeah, once a week, but then we have Monday, then we have Tuesday, then we have Thursday, then I have Saturdays. So, and I have morning classes, college, and so that's why I was thinking that I just wanted to opt for few so that I can get the best out of few.
You're not coming for Tuesday.
I do come. Last Tuesday also I came for a short time, but I did came, and last to last.
You can attend one and see. एक Monday की class attend करके देखो how you find it.
Okay.
Then you can choose. ठीक है?
Sure.
So this comes to closing prayers now, end of the session.
Actually, this is also I also go greedy about grabbing everything. I want this, everything, but I land up attending only few.
Yeah, step by step, we have to fill our life with Krishna. Monday to Sunday, every day should be connected to Krishna in some way or the other. Okay.
True.
So who will say the closing prayers? Bharti? Okay, unmute. Ekam Shastram.
I'll repeat after you.
Yes, Ekam Shastram.
Ekam Shastram.
Devaki Putra Geetam.
Devaki Putra Geetam.
Eko Devo.
Eko Devo.
Devaki Putra Eva.
Devaki Putra Eva.
Eko Mantras.
Eko Mantrasya.
Tasya Namani Yani.
Tasya Namani Yami.
Karmapi Ekam.
कर्मापि एकम्
तस्य देवस्य सेवा
तस्य देवस्य सेवा
त्वमेव माता च पिता त्वमेव
त्वमेव माता च पिता त्वमेव
त्वमेव बन्धुश्च सखा त्वमेव
त्वमेव बन्धुश्च सखा त्वमेव
त्वमेव विद्या
त्वमेव विद्या
द्रविणं त्वमेव
द्रविणं त्वमेव
त्वमेव सर्वं
त्वमेव सर्वं
मम देवदेव
मम देव देव
कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय
कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय
हरये परमात्मने
हरे परमात्मने
प्रणतकलेशनाशाय
प्रणतक्लेशनाशाय
गोविन्दाय नमो नमः
गोविन्दाय नमो नमः
कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय
कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय
देवकी नन्दनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः वसुदेवं सुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं कात्यायनी महामाये महायोगिनी अधीश्वरी नन्दगोपसुतं देवी पतिं मे कुरुते नमः श्रीकृष्ण शरणं मम दासोऽहं कृष्ण तवास्मि हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, गुरु महाराज की जय, श्रीमद् भगवद गीता की जय।
जय।
निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे, हरि 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 बोल। जय जय श्री राधे कृष्णा।